Is everybody in? Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin.
This is very real.
Fantastic.
This drug is dangerous.
Wrong.
You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Shut your little punk ass up.
But the more you hate me, the more you will learn.
Holy shit. Check me out, man. Dropping an episode 2 weeks in a row. Thank you very much. Glad to be back, you guys. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Autoflower Podcast. I'm your host, Chad. And this week, we're going to be chatting once again with Dan, also known as Full Duplex of Mandalorian Genetics, which is now Gnome Automatics. So we're going to chat with him about that name change. We're also going to chat a little bit about the Autoflower Cup. We're going to chat about autoflowers in general, and then, of course, we end up rabbit trailing and chatting and stuff. But, you know, it's always a pretty good conversation with Dan, so I don't think you'll really be disappointed. But before we get into that, I want to remind you that you can connect with me by joining the mailing list on the website. There's censorship happening here and there, and it's kind of sketchy, man. So I thought I would mention it on a few episodes, just in case. So if you want to join the mailing list, just go to the website, autoflowerpodcast.com. You scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you can sign up there to keep in touch. I also want to tell you about a new shirt design that I have up. I'm going to do a limited run of 25, and each one is going to come with a free 5-pack of regular autoflower seeds, and it's the Paul and Chuck Hayes strain. So if you want to get your hands on one, just head over to the website and just follow the links to the podcast store. It'll take you to Etsy is what it's going to do, and then you can securely purchase it from there. So if you want to get your hands on one of those, go for it. And before we get started, I also want to take a moment and honor Steve from Morningstar Seed Company, who, if you weren't aware by now, passed away a few weeks ago, unfortunately. So, our love and our prayers and our thoughts and our hearts and our vibes and everything is with the family. That's really sad to hear. Thank you, Steve, for everything that you've done. Thank you for being there for me and giving me a chance. Thank you for your contribution to the autoflower community, especially for the auto purple microdot, my brother. So rest in peace, my friend. We love you, man. We love you. All right, let's go ahead and get into, it's hard for me to shift gears after that. Let's go ahead and get into the conversation with Full Duplex. Everybody, please help me welcome him back to the Autoflower Podcast. So, man, it's really good to talk to you, dude. It's been a really long time. What the hell has been going on? I'm so far behind, man, on everything as far as strains from all the breeders, including you. I was kind of absent for months, and it's hard to get caught up because I started like turning the wheels and, doing my own stuff. And so, what the hell you been up to, man?
Well, first of all, let me say it's really fucking great to be back. I've missed chatting with you. I know you've had a lot going on with yourself, and, those things have led us back to the point where we could chat together. And I'm really, really happy to do that, man. I always enjoy these conversations with you, and it's always like old school friends. You know what I mean? Doesn't matter how much the distance has been between us, and we pick right back up like we've never skipped a beat. So I definitely appreciate that with you. But yeah, man, we've been busy over here. Really busy over here. Yeah, we, as you know, we have gone through a name change. I guess we'll just go ahead and get into it. I think that's one of the things that people are going to be the most curious about is the who, what, when, where, and why, for lack of a better term. And we've upgraded. I'd like to say upgraded the name to something that's more intimate.
Yeah. So Mandalorian Genetics technically is kind of like It's just a name change, right? It's not like you shut down one thing and you're moving on and doing something else, or is that what it is? Is it just basically you kind of just changing the name a little
Yep.
bit?
That's
Or
exactly what it is.
not a
We're
little bit, but you know what I mean?
Right. That's exactly what it is. It's just a labeling name change. And we have gone from the Mandalorian genetics to Gnome automatics. And we wanted to basically embody the work that I've been doing for years and kind of make it more relatable to me. And it's been the hardest decision I think I could have ever made, especially since I got so much motivation behind the Mandalorian genetics page, and when I really got my start, and things started, coming out to the seed banks. And so that change mentally was difficult, but for the long run, I think it's going to be super beneficial for us.
Mhm.
The reason that we went with Gnome Automatics, we touched a little bit about it on with Shango, is basically it's me. I have been referred to as a gnome for a long time. I'm not a big guy.
Have you really, dude?
Yeah, yeah.
When you say that, it's funny because of your beard and stuff. It just gave me a visual and then it clicked.
And that's the thing. It's like, jokingly growing up, especially from my cousin who does a lot of the work for us. And I know we touched about it a little bit in the video, but like kind of my whole life, I've always been a shorter guy. And I feel like a garden gnome because I spend so much time out there. And I think that's what embodies me. So like we'll touch on the logo. The logo had a lot of work done to it with the gnome. I wanted a sleeveless t-shirt because when I'm working in the gardens and when I'm doing any kind of work outside, I'm in a sleeveless t-shirt. And the flip-flops were another keynote. That's another thing that I wear all the time. Actually, if I could get away with it, I'd wear them 24/7, even in the rain. I prefer to be barefoot in the garden, but that's another story. But the flip-flops touch to that was that way too. And then the hat being not traditional was because I'm usually in a ball cap of some sort. And I kind of wanted to steer away from any other kind of gnome that you've kind of ever seen out there. Like there's usually a pretty fundamental way that they look. And when I was working with the illustrated artists and doing the building of it, and he was just really open to what I really wanted to put into this. Like he didn't have a problem with the revisions. He didn't get frustrated with me when I liked one part and didn't like the other. And it was really nice to work with someone who understood the massive change that I was about to undertake. And I wanted it to be right. I wanted it to be mine. I wanted it to be me. I wanted the brand to be a representation of myself and all of that work that I put in for the last however many years now since I've been working with autos. And then obviously the gnome part of the gnome automatics is all relatable to that. And then the automatic side is what we primarily focus on, what I've built my reputation and what I've worked with for so long. It's a nice play, and it's a way for us to differentiate through all of the weeds of the other gnome cannabis companies that may be out there. At first, I was a little bit concerned about having some kind of brand wash with that because there's gnome here, gnome there. There's people on Instagram that have their name as gnome so-and-so. And I think the tie-in with the gnome automatics together will definitely get, more traction going for us. And it was a way to represent both myself and my passion.
That's sweet, dude. I love it. I like how there's like meaning behind it. It like sounds like somebody explaining their tattoo, like a new tattoo to me, There's just like lots of meaning and stuff. Because I've seen the logo, but I haven't watched that video with you and Shango yet.
Okay.
So I didn't hear any of the story or anything. So it's cool to hear, man. That's pretty rad.
Oh,
I like that.
Well, thank you, sir. And I mean, we got into a little bit with Shango, so I wanted to give a little bit more since we have, since we're sitting here talking about it, and that was the way we started up everything. I wanted you to understand. I want my consumers to understand too. And like one of the things we keyed on is the fact that like I like to be intimate with my customers. I know that sounds terrible, but I like to be transparent and I like to work with everybody. And like I want everybody to feel like we are bringing them along with us for this journey rather than doing this to them. And I think between the video and airing this episode, I think people will understand where we wanted to go with this, why I made the call, and, you know, the potential of what the future could hold for us.
Yeah. So, you know, because I was kind of wondering too, man, like with Mandalorian genetics, if you were going to get any heat, like from Disney.
And I'm not going to lie, that was a concern of mine and part of a motivational piece. We didn't get a cease and desist. We didn't get approached by Disney. The Mouse House hasn't said anything to us. And I don't want people from a PR standpoint to think that, you know, we're tucking tail and running from something, because it's not what we're doing. I think I approach this like I do my gardens is, you know, I would rather be ahead of the curve than behind the eight ball. You know, I want to be proactive rather than reactive. And I think as a small business owner these days and times, and, you know, the culture that we live in, I think it's a smart pivot. One of the smart, you know, a smart pivot to do this. And it's, I mean, don't get me wrong, it is a small factor of it, but it's not the whole factor behind it. You know,
Yeah.
sure, the Mandalorian genetics, slapping the genetics on the end, kind of made it mine, but you know, it wasn't like solely mine. And with this Gnome Automatics, it feels more like mine. And I'm not trying to sound aggressive, but like it feels more like I own it now. You know what I mean? Like every bit of it, other than just the genetics, are mine. If that makes sense. I hope it doesn't come off right, but like I get a more sense of self with this.
Yeah, totally, man. No, I get what you're saying, man. There's nothing wrong with that, dude. I think it's awesome, dude, that you're just kind of representing yourself like more thoroughly. It sounds like, you know, like you're pairing this up with kind of who you are and making it more personal and just representing yourself, you know. I think it's pretty cool, dude. I think it's a good time to do it sooner than later too, because as you grow, well, a couple of things, like as you grow, it becomes harder and harder, you know, in the marketing world, you know, like you shouldn't be changing your name when you're huge, you know, like if, not that any autoflower breeder is as big as Pepsi, but I mean, if Pepsi just changes their name, it's like kind of a big no-no, you know what I mean? Like, so when you're branding and stuff, like you don't, you know, so you got to do that stuff. You're already growing, so you want to get that done if you're going to do it before you get too huge, you know?
I agree with you 100%. I mean, and that's the other angle at it too, is like, fortunately, and out of, you know, the blessing of the consumers, like the brand is growing. And I think with that growth, it creates a larger market for us. And I don't want any kind of hindrance for that growth. And, you know, to continue to move forward, I think you have to be agile in your business plan. And this was part of the business plan. And it's been part of the business plan for a while, but I was looking for the right point in which to do it. And there's a lot of puzzle pieces that had to come together to do this. You know, I've got to work with an artist to make sure that I've got a new brand for brand recognition that I like, that doesn't look like somebody else's work. I've got to make sure that my seed banks and my distributors are all up to date and current with the new imaging and, you know, the new format that we're moving into going forward, getting them all the artwork so they can update their sites. That way people can find the sections, coordinating with them with redirects and site changes, you know. So those are the only things that are really changing about it. The genetics and the work, the passion, the everything about what Mandalorian genetics was will still be there, but underneath this new brand that is more personal to myself.
That's cool, man. So from here on out, it's Gnome Automatics, baby.
That's correct. And you know, we took it a step further, and since I'm doing such a big change, you can go to gnomeautomatics.com and get all the information based upon our cultivars, our story, get on our mailing list now to find out information about drops. And I thought that was an important step to the community too, to give them an outlet to where, you know, sometimes when stuff is out of stock, you won't be able to see what cultivar information is if you want to join a list. And with having a permanent site, I believe that people can go out there, see what we're about, take a look at all of the cultivars that we offer, as well as the collaborations we work with, and find the vendors. You know, a couple things that have been brought up since I did launch the site was there's been some confusion on the site, which is understandably so. On the cultivars page, people are expecting a shopping cart or a checkout. Right now, I'm not doing direct sales. I've never done direct sales, and I don't see that as an immediate part of our future. That's one step I don't see coming, because I enjoy working with a lot of my vendors. There's a couple of them out there, especially Hember Genetics Collection and DC Seed Exchange, who've shown me a lot of love and flexibility and help over the last couple of years. And when I brought this change up to them, they were like, it makes sense. We understand why you're doing what you're doing. And again, so those partnerships are very important to me. So I want to hopefully, clear up some confusion. Yes, the website's there. It kind of does look like there might be a cart, but like I want to give as much information to the public as possible and readily accessible.
Yeah, so it's an information hub for Gnome Automatics is what it is.
Correct.
Yeah, I went to it, dude, like a couple of days ago, and it looks really good, by the way. But I saw that you've got every strain with pictures and details and stuff on it, like finishing time, like all kinds of I think you even put in there what size pots or what light cycles you suggest, however you can still do them at 24 hours, just all kinds of information in there.
Exactly. And I want to be as thorough as possible. It's part of like the teaching aspect to me. I think it's like a place where you can go in and understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it, and what our targeted, market is. There are some stuff that, like, we'll take the Forge and Damascus, for example. The Forge and Damascus do come from the same family line of a Durban poison cross with my L5 family and Ruderalis. And in there, we explain the difference between the two, because I do a lot of phenotypical isolations for my breeding programs, which is a little different approach than most do, but I think that is what's given me something as stable as Anvil or Alf number 5 and Bobby's Widow. I take a look and I get these selections, and usually at F3, I'll find a lot of what I like, and I will find matching parents to work those lines in different directions. Even though they have the same genetic background, if you work them properly and isolate the phenotypical expression or the mechanics and the morphology of the plant, the terpene profiles of the plant, there's such a conglomerate of genetic code in each cross that you do, you potentially have the availability to split those lines if you do it correctly. And so back to my point with the Forge and Damascus is the Forge is more of a biomass, heavy yielding crop plant. The biggest results I'm seeing from that are from farms who are producing autoflowers for biomass in fields of thousands. And they like the big, lack of a better term, hand grenade flowers. They're producing a lot of biomass to where they can sell it at the wholesale. They're really digging the Forge for those large yield qualities in a small footprint. They really dig that, because then they can add more and more and more to the area. And then there's Damascus, which is my true representation of the Durban poison being brought into an auto flowering form. It carries her better leaf to flower ratio. It doesn't get as big and dense buds, where you don't have to potentially worry about a little bit of mold. And it brings over that Durban soapy profile. It really smells like Durban poison. I had the fortunate benefit visiting another medical patient's house about a year ago, and she was holding one of the mother clones that I used for that cross, the photoperiod Durban landrace. And it was in flower when I was over, and literally could walk up to it and it smells just like Damascus. That's one bit of information I want people to understand, is that Damascus is my representation of Durban. If you like Durban terps and if you like the Durban effect, Damascus is where it's at. Now, the only thing about those two is they're in limited quantity right now. So, and the reason that I say that is because I'm still working with them. I do want to do some more. I want to do feminization with them, because that's what I'm hearing people want more. I'm still going to continue to do regular releases and stuff like that. But I released them through Hembra about a week ago, and they were gone within 2 hours. Both Forge and Damascus. So I appreciate everybody for that. And we'll give you a little bit of an insider here. We're going to do one more release.
Nice.
There will be another small amount of the Forge and Damascus being released. Keep an eye out for them within the next week here. They're going to be released to DCC Exchange, and they will
Cool.
be under the new label too. So this will be your opportunity to get the Forge and Damascus underneath the new labeling. The boxes haven't changed. The wax seal hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed on all of our packaging and all of our products, it's just the label on the front and what we're calling ourselves.
Cool, man. How do we get you to like do this full time, dude, so that you can like breed some freaking gigantic stock so that you're not selling out so fast?
And I'm trying to figure that one out myself, homie. We've
Yeah,
had a few. Go ahead.
well, because I've heard some comments over time, like, what's the point of a breeder releasing stuff when it sells out in an hour or something like that? Like, but for those who say that, it's kind of like, well, you got to understand too, though, that Dan is like, he works a normal job and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just in his grow room, 16 hours a day just making seeds. So there's only really so much that can go around. You know what I mean? Like it's the same thing with me. Like, Flowering Club Patreon thing is sold out right now, but it's not because I'm just trying to keep a cap. I mean, I want to open up more, but I gotta double my grow space, which I'm doing, but I gotta get there though. You know what I mean?
I do, and that's the same thing with me. You know what I mean? Like, and you put it perfectly. Like, I've got a 9 to 5, and I do this after that 9 to 5. There's a lot of nights, and I gotta appreciate my vendors for this and understanding from this, that I start my day at 6 a.m. because I got a little boy, and he's up by 6 a.m. and I transverse into my day job, which finishes up at 5 p.m. And then from 5 p.m. to about 7:30, it's family time and calm down time with my son and my wife. And then from then until 1, 2, maybe even 3 a.m., I am either working with the plants, packaging up seeds, putting stuff together, and making this happen to keep the consumer flow happening. So I mean, you take a look at it. There's times where I get 3 to 4 hours of sleep a day.
Damn.
And but there's no rest for the wicked. And I'm not saying that I'm wicked, but I want to continue this grind because the feedback I am getting is the motivation to have those 3 to 4 hour sleeps a night. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that makes sense. And I'm working to improve the production process. There are things that are taking place. I don't want to go into too much detail because it gets into private information, but we are definitely working on expanding things.
Nice.
I've had a few conversations with individuals, and things are on the looking up. And that's the other part of this name change that I wanted to talk about, was the expansion. And by expansion, it's working with individuals that see this in the same light as I do. And I'll give a prime example of that is with Brother Mendel's selections, as well as Daz. Both of those gentlemen have the same vision that I do. They have the same passion that I do. They have the same motivation to produce stable auto cultivars, for consumption at a consumer level, all the way up to, consumer patient, all the way up to a farm level. All three of us have been beneficial in having that success, and it's nice to have individuals like that on your side.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I don't know, Brother Mendel's. I'm totally clue. I mean, I'm sorry to say that I'm like, I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm not sure who that is. I need to go follow him, I think.
Well, I'll tell you this. He won first place flower at this year's Autoflower Cup.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I follow. Okay. Yeah, okay, I got you.
Brother Mendel's is a gentleman. He's based out of Missouri. We got connected a couple years back. Wanted to do some collaboration work, kind of filled each other out, see how it was going to work and play. And that's where Blackstrap was born. His breeding practices, his methodologies, his thought processes are very aligned with mine. And it's like, you know what, let's do this. It was the same decision with Daz when we made Purple Pope. Daz and I have known each other longer, dating back to the AFN days. And, it makes sense to work with people like that to offer variety, maintain newness and, stay sharp in the market. And Brother Mendel's stuff, other than Daz's, are the first two guys that I've grown their seeds in 7 to 8 years outside of my own. And I'm not saying that I'm persnickety or snobby about that. I'm just saying it's stuff that's been worked in a fashion that I would want to work with. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to come out in collaboration wise between the three of us. I mean, I've got certain stuff that I'm working on right now with Brother Mendel's. We're doing some hybridizations with my coal miner's daughter. My coal miner's daughter was fortunate enough to take first place hash this year at extraction at the Autoflower Cup, which is a huge compliment considering everything that was entered into this cup. I got to see some of the judges' boxes because some people got to be able to judge on site rather than having, judge off site and, previous to the cup. And, getting to see some of the other stuff in there, there was some stuff that set me back, and I was like, whew, that's some pretty, that's some really good extract. And to get that award in a category that's highly coveted and considered an art these days means so much to me beyond anything, because one, it was my flower and something that I have worked on myself for the last several years to bring home that award. So having a personal cultivar that I have worked on to bring in an award like that in a category that's coveted as an art is the highest form of flattery I think that I've received in a long time as far as awards go.
Yeah, congratulations, man.
Well, thank you. And I want to say thanks to all the judges who picked it and selected that as the winning one. And, Coal Miner's Daughter is really, really close to my heart. You'll notice with that name, that's definitely a tie back to West Virginia, where I was born and raised. And that's part of this whole Gnome thing is like, is the intimacy and tying it all together to my roots and never forgetting where you come from. We've talked about that several times in our podcasts and in the past. And so the Coal Miner's Daughter was definitely, since she was a winner and it did perform so well with hash, Brother Mendel and I are going to be working with his Special Reserve Cookies 3 that won the cup. There'll be a hybrid between that and Coal Miner's Daughter. His Dark Planet, which is another potent auto cultivar he's got. And then I'm doing a Blackstrap and Coal Miner's Daughter hybrid as well. Those three are going to be coming out soon. Working on those actually right now. And they will be feminized for everybody's ease of growing. And I think it's just the best way to approach these new hybrids like that going forward.
So how was the cup, dude? It was pretty good or what?
Cup was very good. There was a lot of good experiences out there. I got to meet a lot of people that I've talked to on Instagram over the years and shared information with, and being able to connect with those people at a personal level and face to face is really amazing. And, it was really cool. And they'll come up and talk to you, and it takes a minute to recognize them until they say their screen name, which is a weird shift in culture.
Yeah, I know. Huh?
You know what I mean? Because I can remember back when we started AFN so many years ago that, God forbid you share your real name. And, the first introduction is their first name. And then they're like, oh, I'm so-and-so. I'm so-and-so. And it was really cool to connect with people and see people that I have chatted with facelessly for so many years. So that was a really dope experience. And then, the setting was absolutely amazing. Right on the Hood Canal, right on the beach. I had a cabin where I woke up every morning unwillingly because of the sun coming right through the window. But when you woke up and roll over, there's nothing but a giant pane of glass to the Hood Canal. And like that in itself was breathtaking. And sometimes I do take for granted the scenery that I'm fortunate to live around up here, and having that in the backyard for the event was really cool. So people that I know that I've always talked to got to see why I came here and just the natural beauty of the place. So that was super beneficial. Getting to meet all the vendors that I have worked with and reconnecting with Ari from Dino Myco was great. It's always good to see him. Food was good. It was nice to be able to go get your own fresh clams or oysters right on the beach.
Mm.
So I mean, you had that availability. We had wild mushroom foraging going on while I was out there. So I mean, all in all, I had a really good experience, and very happy with the time that I spent out there for those was it 3 or 4 days.
That's cool, man. Yeah, sorry I missed it, man. I was pretty bummed, but I had just gotten back from my grandma's house like a few a few days before the cup started. And we had a camping trip booked, and I'd just been away from my family for so long. I was like, man, I'm just gonna have to sit it out this year, go to the next one.
Right, and there will be another one, and I did miss you this year, especially since the time that we had together at the 2019 Cup. I really enjoyed that experience, and really enjoyed getting to know you better. And I think that's definitely what kicked off our friendship beyond just the podcast and talking and sharing information. And I feel that I've made a couple connections like that. It was really nice. We were right next to the Hembra girls. Their cabin was right next door to ours. And, getting to see, this is the second time that I've actually got to connect with them. I got to connect with them earlier this year in Maine when I went to visit a friend in Maine. Shout out to Randall from A Light from Health. I appreciate the Airbnb up there and the hospitality. That was an amazing experience for me. I'd never been to Maine, and this guy opened up his Airbnb to me.
Nice.
And I got to experience the culture in Maine, and it was just amazing. Had a really good experience. But, getting to reconnect with the girls from Hembra was awesome. It was like seeing friends again and catching up with them. And yeah, just all around good relationship building. I think that was my favorite part. There was a lot of networking that went on. I was pulled in so many different directions. So I got to give a shout out to my cousin too for help running the booth all weekend, because without him, there'd have been some struggle on my end, just in all the directions. Because like I had talks to do, and then I was networking with Dino Myco, and then a few of the other vendors that were there, and just sharing experience and talking about, future and stuff like that. So it was a great time and a whirlwind all wrapped up into one.
I saw that Firebuds was there. Was
Yeah.
Daz there?
Unfortunately, Daz didn't get to make it, but Firebuds was definitely there, and it's always good to see him. Lack of a better term, neighbors. He's over in Tri-City, so I get the blessing to see him pretty much anytime he wants to stop by, and
how's his son doing, by the way?
I was getting ready to talk about that. Sean's doing really, really good. Sean's basically taken the kidney transplant in stride, man. Kid is a boss. He's strong as hell.
That's so good to hear, man.
Oh, it's such a good thing to hear, because I know that there was a concern there for quite some time. That's never an easy thing to go through, especially when you got organ failure in your body, and to see them just come out of it stronger and healing faster than they expected. That's a blessing in itself. So it was nice to be there with Mike from Firebuds and chat up with him and be around his family and miss Firebuds too. And then he had VDub, which is another gentleman on Instagram. They paired up and we're at a couple cabins down past us. And it was really, really nice to just connect with old friends and make new friends.
That's sweet, man. That's what it's all about right there, dude.
Well, that's what it was, the first sense of like the cannabis community coming together for the first time in however long, given the situation that we're in right now. And it was good to feel that community again, to be around those people again, to hug necks again, and see people that I've built relationships and friendships with over the years. And there was a huge, outpouring of locals, obviously, from the area, but there was also a lot of people that came from all the way from Maine, as far away as Maine. Yeah. I had one of the gentlemen that won a free pass, which is kind of a Cinderella story. It's just kind of awesome, actually. So I gave away a free 3-day VIP pass to attend the event. And the gentleman that won it was in Maine. And I reached out to him. I said, listen, you're in Maine. It's fine and dandy if you won this fair and square. He's like, oh no, I'm coming. All right, cool. Like that's amazing. Like I really hope you do make it. And we stayed in contact. I helped him figure out, navigation out here, how to get to the cup, where to come to, where to fly into, what, where to be. And he ended up being able to stay locally. And the gentleman ended up winning first in edibles because he's a chef.
Nice,
And
really? That's cool.
yes, he was able to get an entry in time, and like serendipitous to me to see somebody, put in the effort and taking a vacation and come clear across the country for this event that he won a pass for, and then walks home with a trophy.
Yeah. What a
You know,
story.
right? And I think it's awesome that that happened for him, and so like it was just another one for the books and another one to remember. And again, I want to say thanks to the judges who selected my hash. It's a true honor. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I'm glad to hear that you guys had a good time. You think, like, what do you think about the future of autoflowers? You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to tell when you're in it. You know what I mean? Like when I'm just on Instagram and I'm just browsing and I just like publish this weekly podcast, but it's like, how big is this community? Like, how many people know about autoflowers? And like, do you think it's blowing up even more? Do you think it's going to blow up really huge as more states legalize? Or do you think it's going to start to fade out and people are just going to kind of go back to photo periods?
I think we're seeing a new wave, my friend.
Yeah.
I don't see it fading out. And the reason being is I've been on recent phone conversations with different farms and different companies, and the interest is mounting rapidly. I think we're seeing something being introduced into the culture that, like the sugar snap pea. Jeff Lowenfeld said it best, that this is going to be as revolutionary or potentially as revolutionary as a sugar snap pea growing in your garden. And
So what do you
I
mean
think,
by that?
like when the sugar snap pea came out, it was something that was robust, it was healthy, it was new.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it wasn't taken well, and then when people saw the potential, it just exploded.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Is that right? That's cool.
Yes. Yeah. And I may have quoted some of that a little bit wrong, so forgive me if I did, Jeff. But like, the excitement behind that cultivar, I think we're seeing with the autoflower too, for multiple different reasons.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, man. I hope so. It seems like it's growing larger and larger, but then again, that like sometimes I think like that could just be my perception that's growing larger and larger. I don't know. And I didn't mean to say like, people go back to photo periods. It's not like you have to do one or the other. It's a lot of people adopt both, and some people only, grow one, but I'm glad. I think it's got its own little, community in within the cannabis community, like a sub community, if you will. And I think it's growing rapidly, man.
I do too, and I don't think you were wrong in your statement. I mean, I think it's a very good question. You know what I mean? Because like, is this a fad, or is this a trend, or is this going to be somewhere that's a staple of the future? And I think as long as gentlemen like myself and Daz and Mendel, especially like on the stateside breeding side, I think if we stay true to the way that we're doing it, and watching how these cultivars year after year are improving in trichome production and cannabinoids and terpene profiles and structure alone, like I think it's only going to get better. I mean, if the work continues and it's done in a proper fashion, it can only get better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least in my mind, as long as there's still that dedication in introducing new cultivars, proper hybridizations, studying the backgrounds of these plants, understanding the mechanics of these plants. I really think, I don't want to say revolution is ahead of us, but I really think we're going to see a mainstay staple as far as from a home cultivator who is a new illegal state that wants to grow for the first time, to somebody who is looking for a biomass crop before their primary flower crop, or all the way up into where I'm seeing now where autoflowers are being offered in pre-rolls as well as sellable flower because of the way that they've been selected and bred and moved forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, I want to get plugged into like the local cannabis community here. I just don't even know where to start. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in Southern California, man. There's obviously like some serious like grow community going on here. You know what I mean? I just don't even know where to start. It's like you go into a dispensary and it's like you're just talking to some chick at the counter. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know how to get my foot more in the door, so to speak.
Hey you guys, I just wanted to cut in here and give you a coupon code to save yourself 10% at Autopot USA. Autopot USA provides power-free automatic watering and irrigation systems. I myself use the Easy to Grow system. It's like a 12 and a half gallon reservoir. You fill that thing up and just with your water or with your water and your nutrients mixed in there, and it just, your plants self-feed. They draw from that when they want. It's gravity fed. There's no power. There's no timers or anything like that. It's a great system. I love it. I stand behind it 100%. They sell other things too, all kinds of accessories and things for you to kind of do a do-it-yourself type of thing, which I plan on making a video of in the future. Anyways, if you want to save yourself some money, just use the code AFPodcast at checkout and you can save yourself 10% on your order. The website is autopot-usa.com. You can follow them on Instagram as well. Thanks, guys. More in the door, so to speak. And I'm just like clueless, like how to get in. I don't even know what for, but I just want to be part of the community. You know what I mean?
Right. And Tim, that was the struggle that I first faced when I moved out here. Was, initially I was visiting these dispensaries, trying to talk to these dispensaries and trying to understand how to get more involved. And the only thing that they cared about was the weed that got you high. They barely knew about terpene profiles. They barely understood the difference between the synergy of the cannabinoids other than just getting stoned or based upon a percentage. And I realized real quickly that I wasn't going to get into the community that I was looking for. I wanted to be more involved with the cultivators and the culture of the area to better understand, where my place would eventually be. And for what I have to thank for that is the Vimeo events from Shango. Previous to our current environment, we had, I'd say roughly quarterly, he would hold an event. And at those events, he would have growers, he would have breeders, he would have scientists, he would have specialists, and that would come in and share about an hour and a half, I think, event and talk about different things. And with those Vimeo events, it bred a culture of the people that were actually in the industry. You know what I mean? Like these were people who were cultivators. These were people who were breeders. These were people who were extraction artists. These were people who were specific farming style experts, to where we could go in and one event learn about the endocannabinoid system, to another event where we got to meet Jeff Lowenfels and he talked about his autoflower book release, to speaking with or listening to somebody who was teaching us about soil sciences. And during those events, there was always a pre-tailgate, kind of like a football game, where, these breeders, these cultivators, these farmers, these scientists, these doctors are all outside smoking and talking. And, and getting to network with those kind of people really helped me understand the culture and led me to connect with some of these local farms and some of these local, like, lack of a better term, legends that have been doing this for such a long time here. So that, to me, at these medical events where we got to meet people who were still focused on this plant as medicine, has opened up such a rich opportunity for me to understand the culture in Washington. Because let's face it, I moved here from West Virginia to get into that culture, just like you're asking me about right now. It's like I was a loner over there, and I wanted to get where I felt I would be more at home as far as the cannabis industry and what cannabis meant to me as a person, as cannabis meant to me and as a patient, to where I could not only feel safe, but talk about it openly. You know what I mean? And share my experiences openly and share my, windfalls openly with everybody. And it's what I was looking for. So I have those Vimeo events from Shanko to thank for introducing me. So what I would recommend to you the most is find something like that. Find somebody who's putting on a soil science class or a harvesting and growing and curing class. I think that's the best way that you're going to meet people who are aligned with the same vision that you have or the same want that you have, because that's where I think those people actually show up, because they still care about the plant rather than they just care about the bottom dollar, like the folks that are working behind the counter in a dispensary.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's kind of what I was, where my heart was in it. It's like I definitely want to connect, and no, I'm not down talking any dispensaries or anything, but
Me either.
that's what they do. They're there to just provide, a demand of what people want. So there's nothing wrong with that. They're just in it for, for whatever they're doing or whatever it is. But but when I do to go to a dispensary, if I'm honest, dude, I walk into a dispensary and I feel out of place. I feel just like I don't belong. I don't know, man. I don't know why I'm like that. I do when I walk in, because it's like the plant is so much more to me than what it is for a lot of people. And it's okay. Like all of it's okay. Like, I don't have to be into it as much as you, and so doesn't have to be into it as much as me. And we all have our own level of in our relationship with this plant. But I do desire to connect with like-minded individuals, like in the flesh, like I'd like to talk to somebody with some skin every once in a while and not just on Instagram. You know what I mean, dude?
I do. And I think, and that's what emphasis the networking part, because you can have a conversation via text, you can have a conversation via email, but you can't read body language.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can't decipher whether you're being fed a line of shit or if you're actually being given true facts, and
Mm-hmm.
like being in the flesh and talking with people with that magnitude, I think is what's been so imperative. And it's led me to some really great relationships here in Washington. And, you say you feel out of place going into a dispensary and stuff like that. And I can relate to that, because there's a few I won't enter here because that's how I feel I'm treated. It's like a number. However, there is one that I frequent every single time if I need to go to a dispensary, which is very rare, that I will visit every single time because they treat me like a human being. There's been relatable conversation. The owner is amazingly sweet. And, that's been a relationship there. And then the other part about that for me is I was concerned about who's this West Virginia boy just trying to come out here. I didn't want to be listed as one of those bros that was just trying to get into the game. That wasn't my intention because of my passion for the plant. I wanted people to see that there was a genuine part of me that had been working with this plant for a lot longer time than I had lived in this state. And I had, that was a hurdle for myself to get over. And whether that was my own mental or just something that has been like, kind of like, lack of a better term, forced upon us if you're from somewhere that wasn't your culture for a longer time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
And so that was a thing for me. And like, once I was able to go to those events and meet these individuals and share my experiences, I realized real quick that was a majority of that was in my own head.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it stayed true. There were a few people that were kind of reserved, but the experience showed itself, and I have been welcomed with open arms to quite a few of, like, when I say OGs, like, hey, their roots are here. You know what I mean? Like, they were born and raised and have been through it here and saw it become what it has become in Washington State. And some of them are still fighting because our laws are still a little screwy.
Yeah.
Whether that's from lab testing to what consumer products or what products are being put into the consumers and how they have basically just smashed our medical scene.
Mm-hmm.
And, the only benefit we get now as a patient is, yeah, cool, we can grow plants because we got our patient card and we get a little bit of a tax credit or a tax kickback when we go to the store. That's fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, it's a plant, and every other state that's going green does not require you to be a medical patient to be able to grow your own cannabis. And we need to fix that shit quick here.
Oh, I think there's a lot of stuff we need to fix, man, for sure. There's some things that bother me locally. I almost hate to say it. I've mentioned it a couple of times on the podcast, but dude, like I don't want to say I know of, but I knew of like 2 years ago, an illegal grow, in my hometown, which is like a town over from me. And, they're just pumping this shit out, dude. They're just totally pumping this shit out in an industrial building, like under the radar. And like I'm not trying to judge, dude, but like the people that were coming out, the attitudes, like listening to them talk. What it was is my uncle had an auto shop right next door, and so like I was there one day hanging out for a while, and you just watch and observe, and just the attitudes and the not giving a shit, and just real kind of rough and kind of like badass mentality, and just kind of like gangster mentality almost. Like that just gave me a vibe like that, like, geez, what are you guys like cooking heroin in there or something? But I know it's just cannabis because my uncle told me, plus you could smell it. So they weren't doing a very good job of hiding it. But my point is, I don't care if somebody wants to, get a 5,000 square foot warehouse and grow a bunch of plants. But my issue is like, some of the shit that I get from these dispensaries, dude, is just so bad, man. And I don't mean to complain or anything like that, but I mean, dude, it's horrible, dude. Like, I mean, unhealthy. I don't mean like crappy weed, like low grade. I'm talking like bugs, caterpillar poop, like doing weird stuff to my neurological system, making me tick. It's like, what the hell? Like, like, I don't know what these guys are spraying all over that shit. You know what I mean? And then, but I know that it was a grow that supplies dispensaries in the black market, like, so they can get it for cheaper, and they don't have to go through all the loops and all that stuff. So it's like, I don't know, dude, stuff like that bothers me, if I'm honest. And it's okay that it bothers me. And I hate to, it's not like I'm exposing anybody. I don't know their names. I don't know who they are or saying exactly where they're at, but
You're just speaking from experience.
yeah, dude, it's just something that bugs me because then people like, people are already like, they just want some herb. You know what I mean, dude? Like whether it's for medical purposes or, whether it's someone treating glaucoma or somebody that just wants to relax after work. Either way, these people come in and they're trusting you as a dispensary, and it's legal now. And it's like, and how do you know that they're not getting something that's just got like Roundup sprayed all over it in veg or something, or even in flour? Who knows, and like, I say that, dude, because one time it was so obvious after I'd been growing for a while and I needed a little bit to get me through to my next harvest. So I went down and bought an ounce from a local dispensary, and it wasn't the expensive stuff. I think I only paid like $150, which is still a lot, but it's not like I bought a $350 ounce of some top shelf. But still, dude, I paid $150 for this ounce, and it was just frickin' covered in caterpillar poop. I've said that a couple of times. I got my jeweler's loop out and looked at it, dude, and it was just, I know what caterpillar poop looks like because I've dealt with it before. So my first question is you got caterpillar poop. Like, I break open a bud and there's caterpillar poop in there. I know that caterpillars are inside these colas eating and pooping. You can see a little bit of the damage and stuff on the inside of the cola. So it's like, what are you spraying to get rid of these caterpillars? Because if you didn't get rid of these caterpillars, they would have eaten all of this bud and rotted it. But you got it in time where there's poop all over the place, but yet it's not rotten, and there's just some damage done when you look at it under a jeweler's loop. So like, what did you guys do to get rid of all of these? That's my question. Like, what's on this herb? You know what I mean?
I do, and I'm glad you brought this up.
But if you're not a grower, sorry to interrupt, but if you're not a grower, you're not really looking at shit like that.
Right. And it's a perfect segue. And you're exactly right. If you're not a grower, and if you're not somebody, if you're just a consumer and you've never grown your own, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Not everybody wants to take the time, the money, the effort. It takes a lot of work to grow your own plants. It's not a hell of a lot of work, but it takes work. But that's where I think it is important that we focus on the guys. You have an opportunity to focus on the guys that are putting out these organic, and that's what they stand behind their brand as. So I think we could negate that and move away from that if we support the local farmer. From my experience in Washington and Oregon and a few other different places with farmers that I have either worked with or I watch their practices because they're aligned with mine, look for those guys, because that's where you're going to find that passion weed. Buy that stuff on the shelf. And I think that buying their stuff, supporting that local farmer, will help force out these guys that are producing bullshit and bringing it into these dispensaries that's covered in whatever. You know what I mean? I think we need to take a little bit of accountability as a consumer, and we all say, well, they're selling us the product and we should trust them. No, I think there's accountability on both sides. I think as a consumer, we need to pay attention. If we want better practices, we align ourselves and find those farmers that are doing that. And I think with over time, that will get that garbage out of the dispensary, because if nobody's going to buy it, the dispensary is not going to carry it. And I think that's one of the ways that we can kind of hit back, find the, support that local farmer who believes in an organic approach and who stops spraying when they're at their second week of flower, to make sure that they don't have anything in there. Or if they are spraying, that they're using a product that is safe, during consumption. And that's where we have to hold our state liable to make sure they have an infrastructure in place to hold those facilities accountable for their actions.
Yeah.
So I think we can hit it from both sides. And that's what I'm saying. The laws are so screwy here, is because there's no real standardization on what products people are spraying onto their plants to get rid of those caterpillars that are shitting all over them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was only that was an isolated situation. That was the only time that was the only time I looked. But I mean, that was the only time I found anything. I haven't really purchased a whole lot from dispensaries, to be honest. But that's not okay with me in particular. You know what I mean? I don't like that. If my retired Marine Corps neighbor, if he wants to go down to a dispensary and pick up some flour, which he doesn't need to anymore because, trusty old Chad supplies them. But if he needed to, for free, I don't sell it to him. I'm not a drug dealer, dude. Okay. I don't sell illegal marijuana. No, I give him some, dude. Every time I harvest, I take him over a quarter ounce at least. And he's just a retired Marine vet. He's cool dude. But anyways, dude, my point is I want him to be able to go down to the dispensary and pick up some decent flour that's not covered in caterpillar feces or dead aphids or whatever it may be. You know what I mean? Or that's not sprayed with chemicals that are just gonna, for somebody with PTSD, it's you don't want them inhaling chemicals, getting them all anxious and stuff.
Well, I mean, think about it.
You want it to be clean, dude. I guess I desire for there is clean flour out there. It's not, I mean, we're in California. Yeah. I'm in California. It's not like it doesn't exist, but the other extreme does exist, and it bugs me. It just bothers me that the littler guy like me, who doesn't make a lot of money, I'm not going to be going in spending $350 a week. I just don't have that luxury. And so guys like me, if they don't grow, you got to go kind of buy the lower grade stuff. And when you do, it's just it seemed like the quality was okay, as far as the flour and the effects and everything. But I just noticed that there's poop on it. I don't know what to do about it, though. I'm just this little dude who doesn't know anybody locally. I am such a freaking solo hermit when it comes to the cannabis community, dude. I know nobody. Dude, I only know a few people who even smoke, you know what I mean? Near, around me. And so part of it is I don't know how to get plugged in. And the other part of it is when I do get plugged in, who the hell am I? Who's this guy? Who the hell is this guy coming in here? But it bothers me, dude. And I think there's got to be a better way,
There is, and there are plenty of times that I've seen articles, or I've seen, not articles, but notifications that there's going to be some kind of state or local county government cannabis regulation or cannabis talk or something. The state, sometimes puts those on. Sometimes the local county puts those on, and it's all part of trying to, figure out this program and navigate it. And it's still very new. And I'm not offering that up as an excuse for some of the behavior that's going on in it. But what I'm saying is that's the chance to make your voice. You know what I mean? That's the opportunity. That's really going to get you intertwined too. Sometimes it's not always the right people, but we'll take Brandon Rust, for example, when he's fighting the metric system that's going on down there where he's at. And when they were there for the court hearing, he was on the front steps talking. And that's the kind of motivation, and that's where those voices, I think, are heard the most.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think between finding good, true medical events where you're going to learn something proper about your growing is really going to lead you to proper connections. And I've met some very nice and very wonderful individuals that are very intertwined with what's going on based upon just going to those medical events. And then they tell you where the state events are going to be or the county events are going to be. You know what I mean? Because they're in the know already. And that honestly was what really got me tied into what's going on. I'm still learning a whole bunch. I've not learned nearly enough, but I'm learning about what's going on and what they have done, and all based upon going to true medical gatherings about people that are passionate about the plant in a whole.
Mm-hmm.
That's been my best bet, buddy.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to reach out and kind of step out of my comfort zone a little bit and get plugged in, you know?
There's a little bit of that too. You know, you got to take that accountability on yourself and take that hunt and look for those events, find those events. And that's, you know, you may not find them at first, but when you start hunting, it's amazing who you eventually cross elbows with.
Yeah, I think that's a good note to end on, man. Is there I think it is. Is there anything else that you would like to say or clear up before we get off?
Yeah, man, I just want to say thank you for having me on today and bringing me on and connecting again. I appreciate your time because I know time is valuable to everyone. And so thank you for that. And check out Gnome Automatics on the new website.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
See all the new, you know, the stuff we're getting into and where we're going to be going in the future of a company. And just want to say thanks for all the support and the kindness from everybody, seeing the name change and the understanding. So thank everybody again.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed that conversation. Please don't forget to follow the podcast if you're not already on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I appreciate you guys. Have a great week. See ya.
The deadly narcotic.
Nicotine, alcohol, good drugs. Coincidentally, tax drugs. Ooh, how does this fucking work?
The dried leaves and berries are ground up and made into cigarettes by a simple hand machine. The deadly narcotic is thus quickly and easily prepared for its market. The sale of marijuana is even more difficult to detect and halt than the traffic in drugs such as opium, morphine, and heroin.